The people of the Sudan have a saying that goes something like this: we desire to bequeath two things to our children. The first one is roots, and the other one is wings. In writing this book, MG WAWERU, former Commissioner General, Kenya Revenue Authority, and founder member TransCentury, has done both. He has told the story of where his family came from, a permanent gift that his children can pass on to their grandchildren so that they know their roots. All parents desire that their children go further than they themselves did, and by sharing his journey, MG hopes that the next generation will conquer new territories and fly further and faster than his generation did. Throughout the process of writing this book, the thing that came to mind was the word family. If I could summarize this book, I would say it is a story of three families. The first one is the one that MG is best known for, the KRA family. MG came to the helm of KRA at a time when Kenya was on its knees in terms of the economy. After 24 years of President Moi's rule, Kenya's coffers were basically empty. And President Mwai Kibaki, the incoming president, found a bare cupboard in terms of resources. And yet, NARC, which was the party that he rode in on to power, had made huge promises to Kenyans, including investment in infrastructure and free education, just to mention a few.
And after the electoral win, I'm again thinking now I need to go back to university. I need to go back. Actually I was thinking I want to get a PhD and become a lecturer. Then Professor Nikiwa Johi, who was our leader at TRC, tells me, you have just won the election. Who do you think is going to implement all these things you have been promising people through the manifesto? It's you people. You have to be in charge. You cannot allow, and it makes sense. You are the one who believe in it. You are part of the team that went around and marketed those the manifesto. How do you leave it to other people? So he demanded my CV. I gave it to him. And while playing golf at Muthaiga one day, I got a call to go and see David Mwiraria. I go and see him. He was the new Minister of Finance. And he says, you go and see the board of Kenya Revenue Authority. And I go there, I find Benjamin Kipkulei with his board, and they tell me, tomorrow morning, you report, tomorrow morning, you come and take over from John Munge. So the following morning, I go and find John Munge, and I take over from him as Commissioner General of Kenya Revenue Authority.
When we mention the name Mike WAWERU, it's almost synonymous with KRA. I must say that is as it should be. This tax czar took over KRA when it was in a shambles. He introduced the clarion call, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea.
And I remember even as we discussed with the MG and his team, and we said, let's change the emphasis from people feeling they're paying tax as an obligation to they are paying tax as a contribution. Even when we talked of increasing the excise duty on cigarettes, on beer, even my wording in this budget speech was that as you enjoy your drink, as you enjoy your path, you'll be making a contribution to the construction of roads. So that people don't feel the excise duty is a punishment. It's not a sin tax. It's a contribution you're making. As you enjoy, let others also get some development. And you see, this change of mindset was part of the reforms that MG brought at KRA. And this, I think, factor cannot be hidden.
He created a positive outlook of KRA. And he made Kenyans feel obliged to pay taxes in order to contribute towards the development of our economy. As he acknowledges in the preface of this book, his drive was to make donors irrelevant.
I had previously seen former President Moi saying that he was going to negotiate with the World Bank and IMF. I think you remember when he was very, very angry with Minister Chris Okemo and Mika Chiserem. I don't know what they had. I don't remember what they had not achieved, but he was so angry. He said he was, henceforth he was going to negotiate with IMF and World Bank. And when you think about it, when your head of state is actually going to, because you don't go to negotiate, you go to beg. These are people with money. Right. These are people with money. How do you negotiate with them? You go to beg. When the president becomes a beggar, you are all beggars as a people. And really, that's one thing that made me say, no, that should never happen. And I would never let my president Kibaki, and remember, he became president, he had an accident, and you remember the disability that he had at the time. I would never allow that he gets there. So I would make sure, I said I would make sure that we collect enough money so that he does not have to go and beg at the IMF and World Bank.
MG says that the team he found at KRA were well educated and they were highly skilled people. But the problem is they were not working cohesively together as a family, and that became his main focus, trying to pull them together. By the time he was done 9 years later, KRA had accomplished two main distinctions. The first one was that for the first time in more than 2 decades, the corporation collected enough revenue for Kenya to be able to finance 95% of its budget from internally generated funds. The second thing is that KRA exited the Transparency Index, which was used to measure corruption. I recall Joseph Ndwati, one of the former KRA employees I talked to for this book, telling me that there are people who used to work in KRA who used to lie about where they work when they're asked about it because they were ashamed to say they worked for KRA. But with the improvements that the entire team made, MG and the team managed to instill a sense of pride in KRA employees, and they were working as one unit. I would like to thank Andrew Okello, Ezekiel Saina, Wairimu Nganga, and Joseph Ndwati for sharing their thoughts and recollections of the work they did at KRA during this period. You guys are heroes because you showed Kenyans what is possible when Kenyans come together and work together as one unit. Obviously, the way the Kenya government is structured, KRA collects the money, but Treasury is the one that disperses it. So for KRA to work efficiently and for those funds to go to where they're supposed to go, the person who sits as the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Finance is important. And I think it is only fitting that Honorable Amos Kimunya, who is currently the majority leader of the National Assembly, is here with us today to celebrate MG's story and the accomplishments of KRA, because he was part and parcel of the team that accomplished this milestone.
Now, I've known MG through different prisms. From our profession, joint profession as accountants, I was very involved in the accountancy profession. He was very involved. So I've seen different facets of him. We've had to interact in those different perspectives. I know where he stands from a professional perspective. I know where he stands from a golfer's perspective. And when he asked me, would you like to come and be part of this launch, I did not hesitate, because it's somebody I know and somebody I hold in high esteem, from professional, from being a gentleman in golf. So, it's now my great pleasure to launch this great book, the Kenyan Czar, and to wish all those
The second family that I want to talk about is the conventional family as we know it. First, I would like to single out MG's father Gitau, who played such a huge role in his life that MG started and ended this book by talking about his father. Gitau was a self-taught man. He taught himself to read and to write, and he also taught himself to drive farm machinery, combine harvesters and whatnot on the settler farm where he was working. He taught MG how to read and write before he joined Standard 1 at Goka Primary School in Mwea. One of the things I loved most about MG's telling of his life story is the way he chose to honor the women in his life, starting with his grandmother Waboi, whose husband Joroge died in the First World War, and then coming to his mother, who, just like his father, played a huge role in his life and up till today is still a source of wisdom and inspiration to him. There's this common phrase that people talk about, that behind every successful man is a woman. And yet, as an author who has written several books and read a lot more, I find that especially in African biographies, their wives barely get a mention or a footnote or perhaps a chapter at the end. And one of the things I loved most about MG is how he told the story of his wife, who is a phenomenal and formidable businesswoman in her own right. She not only supported her husband in his numerous moves as part of his work with Panel Bell House Mwangi, which later was rebranded to Ernst Young, but she also started her own business, and at one time her clothing business had customers from as far as DRC and Uganda and Tanzania, and she was selling clothes all over the country. Today, Jerry helps to run the family businesses together with the MG and the sons, and she is still a huge source of advice and inspiration to the entire family. As a woman, I really think other women will appreciate her story, which is told in tandem, hand in hand with MG's story. I would also like to mention MG's children, Maina, Gitau, and Jogu, who have their own businesses, but who also run several businesses together with him. I want to thank them for the insights they've given us into the rewards and challenges of running a family businesses, and just how candid they were about some of the generational differences that happen when a father is running a business together with his kids. The third family is the other thing that MG is known for, which is being a founder member of TransCentury. When four men decided to play a golf game one sunny afternoon in 1995, they probably did not imagine that the discussions they had that day would lead to what the company has now become. That discussion started with a golf game and continued at a mbuzi party. In the Kikuyu culture, when a man invites you for a mbuzi, you know some serious business is about to go down.
Then there is that member of a chama. You know, in Kenya we know the value of chamas. There are those who have been trying, struggling to set up chamas. Others already have set up, but they are thinking of how they can transform that chama into a limited company, how they can invest. You will be happy to note that Mr. WAWERU is one of the founder members of TransCentury, a chama that would later grow into a company that is listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And Chapter 20, 18 holes seed a chama. 18 holes seed a chama will not only shed light upon what triggered the setting up of TransCentury, but it will also provide a snapshot of the challenges that face many such groups, how to surmount the challenges, and how to eventually come up with a solid investment. At a personal level, I think this is my most inspiring chapter of TransCentury.
This chapter of TransCentury will be insightful reading for anyone who is a member of a chama. But the best part for me is the second part of this chapter, where MG gives advice on all the challenges and problems that you can possibly encounter when running a chama. Reading this chapter would be like attending a masterclass from the OG of chamas. And at only 2,400 per copy, I think you will agree with me that this is a great Christmas gift to give to yourself or to your loved one who is a member of a chama, as most of us are. Given that we are heading into a transition election, if you're like me and you're fascinated by the behind the scenes of election periods, you will be pleased to know that MG has included in his life story 2 entire chapters on elections, politics, horse trading, and behind the scenes that goes on. I'm not going to spoil it for you by going into details, but trust me, it'll be worth every penny that you spend on this book. I'd like to conclude by wishing you all a Merry Christmas, a happy and prosperous New Year, wherever you may be watching this from in the world. And for Kenyans, I would want to wish you a peaceful election year 2022. Asante sana and God bless.